So I started doing alternative energy healing, and while I was working on a woman one day, I got a picture of a little Bambi in my mind, and I was massaging her hands and feet at the time. I got this little picture of a Bambi. I didn't quite know what was happening, so I kept massaging. And this little Bambi was hiding under a bush, a tiny wee little quivering animal. And as I massaged the woman's hands and feet, on her foot actually at that moment, the Bambi grew bigger and bigger and stronger, and then I kind of put the hand down. I said, I don't know what's happening. I explained to the woman what had taken place, and she said, I understand that perfectly. That's something I've been looking to heal in myself for a long time. It really feels lovely for me. So I just kept doing this. I kept massaging the hands and the feet, and so then I started getting pictures of what was happening in each hand and foot. Then, as the work progressed, I realised that each limb had was actually an energy field. So some of the things I started getting in the right hand, which I call the spiritual male energy field, I would get the inner child. That's an inner child archetype. So I might have seen a little soldier who doesn't know the war is over, abandoned little children, might be broken legs, trying to get on an escalator and the toes get stuck. These were simple little pictures, and as I massaged, the picture would change. So one quite common one up here is seeing a little child up in a bare mountain, and as I massaged, it would come off and be wrapped in a blanket and put in a safe place. So energetically, that person's energy was healing and coming out of its trauma. What I found then in the right foot, so that I could see that aspect stuck in concrete, or it could be wounded behind a rock, a big male energy with an empty heart, in icy water holding dead fish. So there's a lot of the archetypal energies that I would see there. So one of the things here was that our inner child can't be activated in us so much, or we can't bring through our inspiration and the different aspects that we saw before. We can't bring those through because this isn't activated and this isn't safe. So what I found was I had to go around the whole lot to see how each field was managing in its own space before bringing them together to merge that energy into the wholeness of the person. So the person wasn't kind of in a bipolar space. It would flow maybe from one field to another field. So as we were active, doing something, if we went for a run, we would activate this energy because that is the energy of action and moving forward. So here, this is the spiritual female energy. This is the main nurturer of the child. So what I might have seen as a dark angel here, and the wings couldn't move. So I would get wings. The wings would be crushed, broken, all sorts of things that they might be wrapped with barbed wire, all different archetypal pictures I would see there. As I massaged, the picture would change. This is the earth female in the left foot. So no support. This is Cinderella lost in, cleaning, or a nun takes off her robes and sheds her shame. So very much about aligning these within themselves and then bringing them together as a whole. So these are general ones. So what I had a lady here. Her inner child spiritual male energy was gripping onto bars as if its life depended on it. It wouldn't come out, or wouldn't let go of these bars. So that's all right. So I looked to see how that was. Then I came down to the earth male, and that was stuck in quicksand. So the child couldn't come in because if it had it felt like it was suffocating. So every time that woman took action, she felt like she was suffocating. So that was preventing her from taking action. Her spiritual female energy was blocked. There was no energy flowing to support this life force here. Again, this earth female energy in her was blocked. She couldn't cope. So that was part of the reason why she came. Well, that woman, I said, well, what's wrong? What's going on with men in your life? Because this is her earth male energy field. And she said, nothing, everything's fine. No trouble with men in my life. I'm happily married and I have no problems. Okay, so she wouldn't move from that position. Then her daughter came to see me a few days later, and I had asked permission from her to speak to her daughter, that it was okay. So I said, that's how it was with your mother. And she said, well, that's not true, because my mother is still in litigation with my father. So that was, the mother was married to the stepfather, but still in litigation with the daughter's father. So she still had that there. So it wasn't directly in her direct relationship, but it was still a very prominent part of her life. And so that, that cleared that up a bit. So this man, big-time businessman, very high type A personality. When I massaged his right hand, what I saw was a little mouse being swept down the river. And it just really had a lot of trouble getting it from that position. And when I came down to his earth male energy, him in the world, it was a very overinflated, controlling the inner child, controlling that softer part of himself that he just would not let it out. And it wasn't safe for him to be vulnerable. So the spiritual female energy, this wanted to help, it wanted to nourish the child. So he had this lovely energy there, and he had lovely, tender, gentle, but exhausted energy here that wanted to nourish him. So there's kind of that, he wouldn't let that nourishment happen to himself. So this man wouldn't let go. He wouldn't let anything happen. So no matter what I do, if a person will not let that happen, then they have free will to hold the stuff they want to hold on to. So sadly, his wife left him for that reason, and which was a shame, because it could have made a difference. And this was a young woman, a young single mother. She had tried methamphetamine once, about a year ago. So what I found her and a child alone, frozen in terror and flung outside the body. Now that is typical of methamphetamine. It happens the first time people take it, it flings their consciousness out of their body. That is why it's such a really horrible drug. And so she was still suffering a year later. This was also sitting outside, or sitting around in a cloud just of apathy. It was just there, like it was in a big smoky dungeon, in fact. And here, locked out of the body. So again, it was like it was on a big plexiglass looking in at itself, but it couldn't get back into the body. And again, that is typical of methamphetamine. And her female energy, her in the world, was deflated, really deflated, and that was how she was feeling in her life. And the reason I know that methamphetamine was the cause of this is because that is typical of the people that I have had with methamphetamine, is that they are flung out of their body. So we got her back in her body, and she went on really well, to do very well. And so that's some of the problems that we have. But then I'll see as they heal, they might be held by angels, wrapped in a warm blanket. I might see like a Christ Buddha type of energy, archangels, sparkles, joy, laughter, fairies, chariots, and lovely things that come in. And it's a really beautiful picture of their energy. And again, walking in bright, shining paths, so they're able to get out of the concrete or the quicksand, and I see a bright, shining path. So the spiritual female energy, I will always see this as wings, different wings. They might be big and lush and colourful, or they might be small and active and very beautiful, and embracing or nourishing the inner child. And again, building a crystal staircase to the stars, lovely, lovely images of spiritual action here. And here, this is more an earth type of thing, walking on a pathway to a golden house. So I often see them walking up on a path like through a little forest to a house, and I see a house, the lights might be off, but as they go in, they'll turn the lights on, and this is literally lighting up their heart. So that's very much activating their heart energy here and connecting that to their female power. And again, in men and women, so this female energy is in men, and this male energy is in women.